and welcome back to another chapter of my favorite book, The Laws of Spirit by Dan Millman. If you have not read it, feel free to hear me read it, but I recommend you get it yourself and read it through because it's one of those books that's timeless that you can read, let's say, way more than once. But today we're on chapter 3. And I'm excited because it's weird. Every time I've sat down and done one of these, the chapter seems to correspond with things that are going on in my life and things that I need to hear again. Life's funny like that. But without further ado, let's get into chapter number 3, The Law of Process. Sorry about that. As I said, I hope we don't have too much noise. An ambulance went off. Life is very paradoxical. Okay, the law of process. Taking life step by step. Process transforms any journey into a series of small steps taken one by one to reach any goal. Process transcends time, teaches patience, rests on a solid foundation of careful preparation, and embodies trust in our unfolding potential. That's the little intro. Little quote. We rise to great heights by a winding staircase, by Francis Bacon. The trail inclined so sharply that I felt as if we were walking up a steep stairwell straight up the mountain. Although accustomed to hiking, on this grade I felt my heart beat faster and my breathing deepen. The sage, however, seemed unaffected and spoke without effort. Have you noticed how this mountain path mirrors the journeys of life? How each day we climb towards our goals? I hadn't noticed the path, I replied, panting, as I looked up towards the summit. But I did notice that the peak doesn't seem to be getting any closer. If one focuses only on the journey's end, completion always appears in the distance. This leads many to abandon their goals when obstacles arise or the path grows steep. You know that every journey begins with a single step, but you also have to take a second step, and a third step, and as many as needed to reach your destination. The law of process, said the sage, is nature's assurance that we can achieve nearly any goal, no matter how lofty, by breaking it down into small, sure steps. That seems kind of obvious. Completely obvious, she agreed. That's why so many people overlook it. You said that by taking small steps we can reach nearly any goal? Well, she said, smiling, you can't cross a chasm in 2 leaps, but you can apply a step-by-step process to prepare. And since we don't have any chasms handy, the sage picked up a stone, handed it to me, and pointed to an oak tree about 20 yards distant. Do you think you can hit that trunk? What? From 60 feet away? I sincerely doubt it. Even if I aim to the left, then to the right, it's just too far. Okay then, she replied, leading me directly to the tree until it loomed in front of us. How about now? Of course I can hit it now. Then do it. So I did, whereupon she took me 1 foot farther away, handed me another rock, and said, again. In this manner, by stepping 1 foot back each time, I succeeded with every throw, until we were about 12 yards away, when I missed. Step 1 foot forward and throw again, she said. My stone hit dead center. We continued backward until I missed twice at 16 yards, stepped forward 1 foot, and then hit it again. Finally, after a few misses, I actually hit the tree from 20 yards. As we forged up once again, up against the steep trail, she continued her instruction. You see how this law works in any area of life? By breaking any task into manageable steps, you don't have to wait for success at journey's end. You create a series of small successes along the way. We came to a wide stream swelled by spring rains. The sage crossed first, walking lightly across the zigzag path of stepping stones. I followed, hopping from one stone to the next. Seeing two stones close together, I made a quick decision and leaped from the farther one, landed a little short, slipped on some moss, and ended up in the stream. Making no effort to suppress a grin, the sage reached out with a hand. So you see, in any process, even crossing a stream, if you skip steps, sooner or later you're going to get wet. The path began to widen so we could walk side by side. Before long, just as my clothes were about to dry, we came to a muddy bog. I looked right and left for a way around, but the sides of the little canyon were steep on either side. The sage threw back her head and laughed. Nature is such a wondrous classroom. Her lessons appear just at the right time. Meaning? Open your eyes, she said. How does this muddy trail reflect your life? Right now, I haven't a clue. Well, let me spell it out. On the path stretching between you and your goals, do you usually find a red carpet? No. More often than not, I find a swamp. Yes, worthwhile goals demand effort, risk, and sacrifice. You have to persist through fear and doubt. You have to draw on inner resources and become more than you were before. Every new challenge serves an initiation. You meet discouragement. You overcome discomfort, boredom, and frustration, and you find out what you're made of. As we sloshed ankle deep through the mud, she added, "What pulls you through the muddy paths of life is the vision that inspired you to begin on the quest. It can draw you like a magnet through muck and mire. So the first step in any process is creating a direction, choosing a goal that shines for you." That's sometimes a tough question for me, deciding what goal to pursue. Well, you won't discover it by waiting for a divine revelation, absolute certainty, a mystical vision, or the voice of God. So don't weigh ideas or wonder. Don't doubt your direction or depend on others to tell you what you should or shouldn't do. Go towards what attracts or excites or inspires you, towards what touches your heart. Ask yourself what's worth the effort and the sacrifices that come with commitment to any goal. Man, I love her. As we washed off our muddy feet and shoes in a stream, the sage offered some advice. Remember, traveler, that lofty dreams in the distant future are a difficult burden to carry. The best goals may be those you can handle in the next week, the next day, the next hour, or the next step. Create a process that yields many small successes. Many small successes, I repeated to myself as we continued up the ravine. But what about people who seem to achieve fame overnight? Where was their process? I asked the sage. Any truly successful venture, she responded, is like building a house. It begins with a strong foundation and proceeds patiently towards completion. Some houses or careers are built quickly, but without a stable foundation. They look beautiful, but they don't stand for long. If you look closely at overnight successes, you'll find that they usually took about 10 years of preparation. 10 years, I said, mostly to myself. Think of it, she said. In 10 years, you can accomplish nearly anything. You can become a physician or a scientist. You can develop high-level skills in a sport, a game, or a martial art. You can become an expert on any subject. You can create wealth or transform your body. 10 years still seems like a long time. Looking forward, yes, but looking backward, centuries pass in the snap of a finger, in the blink of an eye. Abruptly, she pointed skyward. Look, up there at the summit. I looked, and it still seemed far away. Now look back, she said. I turned to view the hills below. We've come a long way, step by step. We've been walking and talking for hours. That might have sounded like a long time if I had told you where we began, but looking back, I finished her sentence. It doesn't seem long at all. We headed up through the clump of trees into a darkly shaded area, losing sight of the sky. The sage knelt down and picked up an acorn and explained. The same way this tiny acorn grows into a towering oak, the same way a river patiently carves a canyon from stone, the same way you've grown from a helpless infant into a mature man. You can and will accomplish all that you desire, one step at a time. You make it sound so certain. How can you be so sure? After all, even going step by step, one can still fail. Few things are certain in this world, she said, but people rarely ever fail. They only ever stop trying. As we stepped out from the cover of the trees into a larger canopy of sky, we turned and looked at the hills below as the sage offered some final words on the law of process. Lasting progress doesn't happen in a few dramatic moments, but hour by hour, day by day. And as time passes, every process includes repairs. The road to happiness is always under construction. Focus on taking life one step at a time until you get it right. Set aside what you can do later. When discipline and patience join forces, they become a persistence that endures past the peaks and valleys to carry intentions to completion. Enthusiasm sets the pace, but persistence reaches the goal. Process and patience and persistence are the keys that unlock the doorway to any destination. The treasure isn't only at journey's end, you see. The process itself is its own reward. We found ourselves standing at the summit. Wiping my brow, I surveyed the magnificent view below, all the sweeter for having been earned. I looked toward the sage as she pointed toward yet another, higher peak in the distance and another beyond. Reach one goal, and you only create another. The journey never ends, she said as we turned back down the mountain. That was chapter 3. Little do you know, it actually took me 3 tries, thanks to my iPhone storage. But it's done, and it just took a little bit of persistence. I'm telling you, every time I sit down to read a chapter, it's the most perfect, most aligned chapter that I need in this moment. And I honestly wonder if it's the same way for you, if these chapters have been aligning perfectly with what you need to hear in your own life. So maybe you could let me know in the comments. But I will be sitting down soon to read the next one, The Law of Presence, Living in the Moment. I hope you guys enjoy these. I find them extremely relaxing and just an amazing reminder. So that was The Law of Process in my favorite book, The Laws of Spirit by Dan Millman. I'll see you guys soon.